Today I'm going to show you how to make a tiny weave for this little pendant that is in the treasure box, the Shiny New Year treasure box. It's a pretty little piece. Let me show you what it looks like. Oh, it turns out really cute. This is what it looks like. And we're using some of the cubes and 6mm rounds, and I just added some turquoise color to the mix here in my seed beads, so that there has been some people that feel like that there's too many dark elements in this bag. Well, the thing is black is a total neutral, so you can dress up any of these beads with any color you want. So you can use turquoise, green, yellow, whatever you want. So that's what I've done with this, and I'm going to do a couple other tutorials with this pendant too, so that those who do not want to weave do not have to. I'll do a couple other techniques with it. But this is what this one looks like, and this is what we're going to do. And I do have some of these little pendants left, so I will list them on the website and on the pendant page. And if you want some, you can get one or three. I think I'm going to put them in groups of 3. But that's what that looks like, and let's go ahead and see what it takes to make this project. Okay. For this project today, we're going to be using from the Shiny New Year treasure box some of the 6mm round black glass beads and this tiny little pendant. We're going to use that, and then we're going to use a clasp from the box, and we're going to use some of these 6mm cubes from the box. So there's 11 in there, but we'll probably use 10 or 8 or an even number. Then we're going to add to the treasure box some Toho seed beads. These are Toho nickel plate, and I have an 8/0 and an 11/0. I don't know how many of the 8/0s I will be using in the nickel, but as I'm designing, but I will be using some of this turquoise color. Now I'm adding color to this because I've had some people make the comment that it's just too dark, too many dark colors in this treasure bag. Well, you can always mix. Treasure bag is a kicking off point. It isn't a kit, it's a kicking off point. You can add any color to it you want. And black is a neutral, so you can add it with purple, green, yellow, orange. I'm going to use turquoise. Every color looks beautiful with black. And the rainbow plate, that is the other kind of color tone in this bag, goes with everything. So you are not limited. So I'm going to use some turquoise, opaque blue turquoise Tohos in 8/0, some nickel plate 8/0, and some 11/0 nickel plate. And I do have some of these on my website in the nickel plate if you want to get some. They match really well with clasping. That's why I like the nickel. And then we're going to be using perhaps 2 needles. I mean, you can switch your needle over. You can do all one side and then do the other. I'm going to show you how to do both sides together. However, you don't have to do that, and we'll discuss that more in the video. If you want to do it that way, then you may want to have 2 needles and 2 individual wingspans of thread. So wingspan is when you stretch your arms out from side to side like you're going to fly away. Measure from your fingertips. Yes, no, your fingertips, the length of your first arm across your chest, the length of the second arm into your fingertips on that second arm. Put one length on one needle and one on the other, unless of course you want to do it in 2 phases, which is also possible, and we'll discuss that as you see what I'm doing. So I know that I'm doing a lot of bead weaving with this particular box, but that's why I got small beads. I will also do some videos with stringing and with the same components for those who do not bead weave, so don't fret. And let's get started. To begin this project, you're going to grab one of your needles with your thread on it, and we're going to pick up 4 8/0 seed beads in whatever color you decided. Mine are turquoise, so I'm going to pick up the 4 turquoise. And I'm going to bring this down to the end of my thread, leaving just enough tail so that my beads don't pull off as I pull on my thread. Then I'm going to go up through the first 2 beads on the tail side. I'm going to hold on to them and my tail, and I'm just going to pull my thread through until the second set lays on top or next to the first set. Then we're going to sew back through. So we're coming out of this set, the tail is here, the working thread's here, we're going to go into this set right here. Just hold on to everything, kind of tuck your tail away so you don't pull it through, and then just bring your thread through, just like that. Now, go back up through the first set where the tail is, ignore the tail, and go back up through. And give a little tug. And this is what you should have. Now, we are going to attach this to our pendant. So we're going to pick up an 11/0 and an 8/0, just like this. We're going to drop the 11/0 and 8/0 down to our little piece, and then go through the component, just like this. Just draw that down your thread until it's close to your beads, and then go through just the 8/0 seed bead right here. Let me get you a little closer, just like that. I'm going to pick this up, and I'm just going to draw my thread through that 8/0. And this will bring the pendant up towards the piece, just like that. Now I'm going to pick up another 11/0 seed bead, and I'm just going to go through the opposite set of these beads from which I started. So I started here, I'm going to go here now. Just go right down into those two beads. I'm going to pick it up, move the tail, and pull my thread through. And this is what I have, just like that. And we're going to sew through this, but first we're coming out of this bottom. We're going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead, and I'm going to use one of my 8/0s in the nickel. However, you don't need to do that. You can use whatever color you want. You can stay with your turquoise or whatever colored bead you're using. And I'm just going to use it because I want a little pop of silver in the front of my necklace. So then I'm going to go down into the next set. So we're coming out of this set right here. We're going to go into the set with the tail coming out. I'm going to pick it up, move my tail, and go down that set. And then I will go into the 11/0 underneath it, the 8/0 above the pendant, and then through the pendant loop, just like this. Then I will hold on to the entire thing and pull. Pull that little 8/0 right down in the middle of those beads. I'm going to trim down this tail just so that it's out of my way. I'll leave a tag to burn down. And now I'm coming through my pendant right here. Now I'm going to go back up through the 8/0, the 11/0 on the other side, and the two 8/0 seed beads on that side, just like that. And I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to go through the 8/0, then I'm going to go down these two beads right here and the 11/0 and the 8/0 and see if I can get through my clasping. Or not clasp, but the loop on the pendant, just like that. And pull it through. Now I'll go up the other side. And you can see, because I'm using such small thread, you don't really see it terribly around the pendant loop. But, like I said, if you want to use a 6-pound fire line, you can. But use a small fire line, 6 pound or smaller. You do not want to use a thick one, because then the rest of the weave may be a little bit difficult. Now I am going to just roll this little tail down. Just get heat a little close and roll it down, and then go through this 8/0. Now we're secured to the pendant on one side. We're going to build a little bit on this side, and then we will make another exact attachment on this side. So we're going to start the weave just so that you can see how it works. I want to get everything straightened up, make it look cute. like that. And if you want to sew through it again, if it's a little sloppy, looks a little weird, sew through it again, that's fine too. Now I'm going to pick up an 11/0 seed bead, and then I'm going to pick up a, let's see, what do I want? A 6mm round, and then an 11/0, a turquoise 8/0, and an 11/0. And I'll show you what I have. This is basically the same stitch that I came up with the last bracelet I made. However, we're just going to use it differently on this. So I have an 11/0, a 6mm round, an 11/0, an 8/0, and an 11/0 on my thread. And I'm going to drop this down, just like this. Now I'm going to go right back into the 6mm round, and only the 6mm round. I'm going to hold on to that bead and pull these beads down. And they should form a little picot on top. Now if they tangle or do something weird, just straighten them out until you have it to where the two 11/0s are touching the 6mm round and the 8/0 is sticking up like that. Then you're coming out of the bottom of the 6mm round. You're going to pick up another 11/0 seed bead, just like this, and you're going to go directly into this 8/0 that we started in. So we started on this side of the 8/0, we're going to go into this side, and we're just going to pull that needle through, and now we have a cute little unit. Just straighten it up, and this is what we have. But we need to secure this by sewing all the way around it, because otherwise it doesn't stay really straight and neat. So we're going to go from this 8/0 up into the 11/0, the 6mm round, and the 11/0 above it on that side of that 6mm round, just like that. And we're just going to pull it through. Then we're going to go through the 8/0 seed bead and pull the thread through. And I'm turning this upside down so I can get to it, just like this. And I'm going to go through this side now, the 11/0, the 6mm round, and the 11/0 right underneath it, just like that. And I'll hold on to everything. I'm just holding on to the 6mm round, pulling my thread through, and then I'm going to go into this 8/0 here. Now, sewing all the way around it instead of just sewing back up to get to the 8/0 for our next unit is what's going to make it balanced, secure, and hang correctly. So you want to go all the way around it, and then we'll sew back up to the 8/0. So now we're coming out of the 8/0 here. We're going to go into the 11/0, the 6mm round, and the 11/0 on this side right here, and pull through. And now we are into this 8/0 seed bead again, and we can start our next connection. Straighten everything up, and you can see how this is going to lay, just like this. And then we can move this over and put our next one on. But we're going to do a few units on this side. You can do the entire side and then connect too, but we're going to do a few units. Then I'm going to show you how to connect this side. You can alternate back and forth doing each side with 2 needles and 2 threads, or you can do one complete side and then do the next side. It's up to you. So what we're going to do now is I think I want to put a cube. I want to put 2 cubes in front, I think, here. So I'm going to make 2 units with cubes. It's the exact same unit. I am coming out, I'm just going to turn this over. I'm coming out of my 8/0 seed bead. I'm going to pick up an 11/0. And then I'm going to pick up my cube. I'm going to drop those down. And then I'm going to pick up an 11/0. And a turquoise 8/0 and an 11/0, like this. I'm going to drop these down. Then we're going to go back just through the cube, just like this. Hold on to that cube and pull. These 3 beads should just pile up on top of each other just like this, make a cute little picot, just like that. Then you have to note which side you're coming out of the 8/0 here, and we're going to go into the other side. So we pick up an 11/0 and go into the other side of the 8/0. This will pull your unit into alignment like this. Now we need to sew back through the unit. So we're coming out of the 8/0, we go into the 11/0, the cube, and the 11/0 above it, just like that, and pull. Then you want to go through here, the 8/0 on top, back down into the 11/0 on this side, the cube, and the 11/0 underneath it. It's a little fidgety when you very first start, but you can get it. Just make sure that you're going through the proper ones, or if it crisscrosses, it can kind of hang funny. So just make sure you're going through one side completely and then the other side completely. And then we're coming out of the 11/0. Now we're secure. We're going to go into this 8/0 and we're completely secure. And then we're going to work our way back up. So we're going to go into this 11/0, the cube, and then sometimes it's hard to get the 11/0. So you try to, because it's harder if you come out and then go underneath it. But if you have to, you can do that. So I've got all 3 beads, and then I'm going to go into this 8/0 here. And I'm going to make one more unit just like that. I like to straighten everything up, make sure it looks good. And that's what it looks like so far. This is just going to be a very dainty, cute little necklace. Someone told me that this pendant is too small to be a pendant. It's not. It doesn't have to be doubled for earrings. It's fine. A lot of people right now are wearing very tiny pieces, and that's why I included this, because that is the trend right now. So we're going to make just a cute little tiny necklace. So now we're going to go and make another one of these. So we're going to pick up an 11/0. We're going to pick up a cube, and we're going to drop those down. And then we're going to pick up an 11/0, an 8/0, and an 11/0. Just like this. Then you're going to go back into the cube, and just the cube. Hold on to it and pull your thread through. Now, if it doesn't line up perfectly, like mine just didn't, which will happen occasionally, just arrange it until it does. And now it's where it's supposed to be. So now I'm going to pick up another 11/0 and mind where my thread is coming out. So I'm going through this side already. I'm going to go into this side of the 8/0 and pull. And that will push everything into alignment, just like that. And then I will go back up into this 11/0 seed bead here, into the cube, and all the way over here. There we go. And pull this thread through. And then we have to go through the 8/0. And then we have to go back down into the 11/0. And then the 11/0 underneath the cube, just like that. And I'm going to back off just a tiny bit now. And then I'm going to go through my 8/0 seed bead. Excuse me. Now I have to climb back up the other side. So I'm coming out this way. I will go through this 11/0 and the crystal and the 11/0 on top of it, just like that. Now this design can twist and turn and do all kinds of weird things, and it's still going to look pretty. That's why it's okay. I mean, everything doesn't have to lay perfectly flush. It can twist, it can turn, it can do whatever it wants, because it's a single layer, kind of like stringing. So you don't have to worry too much about it. However, each time you put one on, just straighten it out so that you have a nice alignment to start with. And then as you're wearing it, if it turns a little bit, it's truly not going to matter much. So now we're going to transition back into the 6mm round, just so you can see, so that you can decorate this the way you want. So I think I'll put a 6mm round, a couple of cubes, maybe 3 6mm rounds, and then a couple more cubes. So my cubes are more towards the front of my necklace. And then I'll continue with 6mm rounds all the way to the end. And first we're going to transition back into that 6mm round. Then I'm going to show you how to attach the other side. And then I'll come back and show you exactly how I put mine together. So let's transition back into a 6mm round, same stitch, different bead, that's all. We're going to go into this 8/0 seed bead. We're going to pick up an 11/0 and a 6mm round and drop it down. Then we're going to pick up an 11/0, let me move this into camera better, and an 8/0 and an 11/0. Just like this. And then we're going to drop those down to that 6mm round and go right back into the 6mm round, hold on to that bead and pull. Now, if your little guys don't line up the way you want them to, just arrange them, just like that. And then we'll get you in a little closer just for the heck of it. Come in, pick up an 11/0 and go back into the 8/0 on this side right here. So you're coming out of the 6mm round, go into the 8/0 you started in on the opposite side from which you started. Pull your thread through. And there's your unit, and just sew back through it. So I'm just going to go through this one. And this one. All the way down the other side, back through the 8/0. And then you just have to kind of turn it around in your hand so you can see what you're doing. Then I'm going to go back up this side. Exactly the same thing we've been doing all along. Get all 3 of these beads here. And go into the 8/0. Now I can just continue doing this. Like I said, I think I'll make 3 units of black and then a couple more units of my cubes because I only have a few cubes, so I think I want to put 2 here and then 3 units of black and then 2 and then the rest black. And then on the other side I can make it symmetrical doing the exact same thing, and I've only used 8 of my cubes, and I have plenty and maybe even enough to make some kind of matching earrings. So that's how I'm going to do that. But right now I'm just going to park this needle over to the side, kind of keep everything over to that side, and I'm going to grab the other needle I threaded. And I'm going to show you how to do this half. Now, like I said, you can finish this half first and then come back and do this half, or you can do them both at the same time. I'm going to show you this side just so off camera we can finish the necklace. We're going to start exactly the same way. We're going to pick up 4 8/0 seed beads on our needle, just like this. Bring it down to the end of the thread, and then go back up through the first 2 from which you started. Pull it down, and then go back through the second set. So you're here, you're going to go here. Hold on to everything nice and tight because at this point the thread can slip out, and then go back into the second set. So I'm coming out of this set, I'm going to go back into this set right here. Oops, pull it right out of my hand. Now I am going to pick up an 11/0 seed bead and an 8/0 seed bead, and I used my turquoise on this one, so I'm going to do it the same way. And see if I can get this to line up here. I'm just going to go through the clasp on this side. So push this over and go through, it's not a clasp, I want to call it a clasp, but go through the loop on the pendant like this. Just keep everything controlled, keep everything pushed over to that side, and then go up into the 8/0 here, just like this. Hold on to it, and then you can gently draw it down to the piece, like this. Try to keep it straight, and then pick up an 11/0. Go into the 2 8/0s on this side. Let me get you closer. This is exactly the same thing we did before. It's just that now we have to make sure we don't tangle into our other stuff, and that we position it nicely on here. So I just kind of split them apart like that so that they look nice. And now we have to secure this, but I'm going to cut this little thread down just a little bit because it drives me crazy. Then I'm going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead, and I used silver on this side, so I'm going to use silver on this side, and it's probably the only time I'm going to use the 8/0 in the nickel plate. So if you want to just use your turquoise or whatever color you're using, do that. And then go through the 2 beads on the other side, just like this. Pull this 8/0 down. And then go into the 11/0 and the 8/0 and the pendant. Pick it up, hold it so you can gently pull that thread through, and then go back up through that 8/0 and the 11/0 on the other side. I'm going very gently because I cut my tail a little too short, and it can still slip until I get this a little bit more secure. So I'm going as gently as I can there. Leave a little bit more tail than I did. Then I'm going to go into this 8/0 here and sew through the entire thing one more time. Now I can pick this up, keep this over here, and just work on it. I'm going to go through all the beads on this side and the 8/0. Pull through. Then I'm going to go up through the 8/0 and all the beads on this side, if I can get them, which I cannot, so I'll just go through this one here, and then back up through this one and the 8/0 on top. Now I am secure, and what I can do is make my next units exactly the same way. So I can move back and forth now from needle to needle. So I'm going to start with my 6mm round unit, or yeah, 6mm round bead. So I'm going to pick up an 11/0 in my nickel. I'm just going to look at what I did with my colors and my beads on this side and start to do the same thing until I'm equal, and then I'll work on this side a little more and then on this side again. And I'll just move back and forth. You don't have to do that. You can do one whole side and then do this side if you would like to. Now, I keep it controlled by laying it on my desk, parking my needle to one side, and then that way I can keep my threads from tangling. If you're picking it up, if you're sitting in a chair or whatever, it may be a little bit difficult to do both sides. You may want to do one side at a time. Then we're going to pick up an 11/0, an 8/0, and an 11/0. Drop them down, come back through the 6mm round, and pull. Make sure they line up correctly. Sometimes they do, other times they don't. I'm just going to make sure it's nice and neat. Then I'm going to pick up an 11/0, and I'm going to go into the opposite side of that 8/0 I'm coming out of, right here. And I can pick it up, and you can see I can go through that 8/0 and pull my thread through. Now I can sew back through this entire unit. So I'm going to go up through the 11/0 and the 6mm round and the 11/0, and then through the 8/0, and then through the 11/0 here, and the 11/0 underneath that 6mm round. I should have went through both of them, but that's okay, I can get it, it's loose enough. And then through this 8/0 here. straighten everything out. And then I will go back up through this side. Make sure I'm in camera here. And all the way up through. Same stitch. It's never going to change. It's going to be the same stitch all the way through. But you can change shapes and colors of beads, whatever you want. You can do this any way you would like. In any color scheme, you can use any bead, as long as it's a little bit larger, about 6 millimeter. You could probably even do it with a 4 millimeter. It'd probably work. But you just want to make sure that your beads can lay nicely on top of the beads as you pull it through. And that's the only really big requirement of this. And then you can just continue. So I am going to continue making my units on this side, then I'll make my units on this side, and I'll come back and show you exactly what I have made, and then we'll put a clasp on it. I do have some of these little pendants on the website if you want some. I have some left over. So I'll sell them in sets of 3 probably, so you can make a matching pair of earrings if you would like. All you would have to do is this part here, 1, you don't have to do 2. Do that part and put it on an ear wire. It would be just fine. Okay, so here we go. Let's work to length and I'll be back. Okay, so now you can see I've done both sides. And what I have done is my 1 6 millimeter and then my 2 cubes, 3 6 millimeter rounds, 2 cubes, and then 12 6 millimeter rounds. And this will make a little over 20-inch necklace by the time I put my clasping on. If you want it shorter, of course, just use less units back here. You can just measure it on your ruler, one side at a time, or you can put it on your bead board and measure it to get the length that you want. And this is what it looks like. And I think it turned out really, really cute. And let's go ahead and put clasping on one end, and then we can put clasping on the other end. And then I'll do a stringing design with this little guy too, so that some people that don't want to do all this weaving can have a stringing design also. So let's bring this forward here. I'm coming out of my last 8/0 seed bead here, and I'm just going to pick up an 11/0 and an 8/0, and I'm going to drop it down. And then I'm going to pick up one end of my clasp, and I'm going to go through the loop. Then I'm going to go back through the 8/0 here, and let's get you closer, and just hold on to it and pull my thread through. Pull my clasp down to my 8/0, and then I will pick up another 11/0 seed bead, and I'll go into the other side of the 8/0 that I started in. Pull this together, and that's what you should have. And then we'll just sew through this a couple of times. So just pick it up and go through just the 11/0. You're coming out of the 8/0 right above the 6 millimeter round bead, and you're just going to go up through those 2 beads on that side and through the clasp. The 11/0, the 8/0, the clasp, and then down into the 8/0 again, the 11/0 on the other side. And then through the 8/0. Go ahead and sew through that 2 or 3 times, and then we'll sew down and cut and tie off and then cut our thread off. Okay, I have secured my clasping. I'm coming out of the 8/0 right here. I'm going to go down into the 11/0 here and the 6 millimeter round and exit. Right between the 6 millimeter round and this 11/0, I'm going to try to make a little loop going underneath that 11/0. So I'm just going to go right around and behind that 11/0, right there. Pull a loop and then a knot, like that. Then we're going to go back into that 11/0. Whoops, stabbed myself. And then into the 8/0. And then just go into this 11/0. Well, let's go into the 11/0 and the 6 millimeter round and do it the same way again. So we'll just exit that 6 millimeter, pull the thread through, and then go between the 11/0 and this 6mm round. See, I'm just coming up between those two beads, and I'll just direct my thread so that it slides underneath that 11/0 as I pull my knot down. Do that a couple of times, cut your thread off, and we'll look at the finished product. Okay, so we can't look at the finished product yet. We have to do the other side. So I have sewn through, knotted, tied off, and then burnt down my little tag of thread. And then I'm going to put my needle on this side because you should have thread left on both sides. You may already have a needle on it. And then just do the exact same thing we did on this side with this end of the clasp. Tie it off the same way, and then we'll look at our finished product. And this, my friends, is what our pretty little necklace looks like. And I put it on. It's really cute. At 20 inches, it's perfect because it hangs into a nice V, and it just looks really pretty. So that turned out really nice. Let me get you close to the front so you can see how pretty it is. It's just a nice little pop of color with the different color seed beads. And I am going to work on doing a couple other little designs with this little pendant so that you have options. And that's what that looks like. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks. Bye-bye.